Star Wars is a culmination of fantastic moments that tell a larger story, with each one building to the myth of its characters, lore, and impact on the audience. When asked the simple question, which scene is your favorite, I often find myself changing my answer for a myriad of reasons. What point of my life I'm at, what day of the week it may be, or even the weather. All this to say, I truly can't decide. It's really too difficult, and the idea that I have to choose one doesn't sit with me either, as there's tons of scenes that deserve to be in the conversation. So for this video, I was able to settle on the 3 that continuously live in my head as the most important to the entire franchise, that together, these 3 scenes could in spirit tell the story of Star Wars itself. Pillars, if you will. Essentially, if they were the only scenes we had, we could still understand the narrative that George Lucas is trying to tell, the themes he's conveying, and it would still resonate with anyone, even with limited context. And when you add context, they truly become legendary. So, strap yourselves in, and let's get into it. The scene I want to go over is truly a spectacle in every sense of the word, one that is synonymous with Star Wars itself. And if you don't believe me, the theme that's used here is literally called the Force theme, or the Binary Sunset. The scene itself is very simple in nature. Our protagonist is shown to be frustrated as he approaches the mound and then looks off to the twin suns as they set on the day. On the surface, nothing happens that actually progresses the plot forward in any way. It's simply a boy looking off into the sunset. However, what it does for the audience is essential. It's economical storytelling at its finest. The simple idea of show, don't tell. Here we're shown how Luke feels without needing him to say anything. Typically in books, we gain insight into the mindset of the protagonist by having them express their inner thoughts. Here, since that's not possible, we rely on feeling, and this is emphasized through both the scene's absence of dialogue as well as the timing of the scene. And I say timing because it follows the establishing scene of Luke speaking with 3PO. Here we see how much he craves adventure, and when he asks his uncle for permission to pursue it and is denied, we see the disappointment, frustration, and anger all turn into longing as he yearns to know more about his father and have a greater sense of purpose. Within the scene itself, in isolation, there's imagery that we can pull from and relate to our protagonist with. Starting with the obvious, he stares into a sunset, which, as it symbolizes the end of the day in the real world, in literature, it symbolizes the end of something deeper. In this case, the life he once led, the life of the ordinary world as a farmer, and into the extraordinary as a knight that will storm the fortress and save the princess. The 2 suns can be seen as the 2 options in his life that he can choose from, a version of the red and blue pill scenario, either keeping things as they are and continuing to live life as a farmer, or to actively choose becoming a Jedi Knight and a hero. The scene truly acts as the first major milestone in the journey of heroism, as it's the closest thing visually to showcasing the main character looking on into the future. It resonates with us because we can relate to this idea of being stuck in life with no direction, or at least with no clear path in sight of things getting better. This being emphasized in the vast dune sea that is Tatooine, where with this home planet of his being a desert, his environment is dry and lifeless, with nothing on the horizon. So it only makes sense that Luke would look to the stars, or the twin suns, the universal idea of hope and longing, with a desire for purpose and escape. In episode 5, as Luke continues his training, he reaches a point where he puts his skills to the test and learns the valuable lesson of the power in believing in yourself, a strength of heart versus the inherent physical strength that one has. Something that relies on the idea of hope, the ability to believe without seeing. Early in the scene, he's presented with what seems like an insurmountable obstacle in the sinking ship. As a young man, he's so fixated on time and solving the problem now, worried about the consequences of losing the ship, not worried as much about completing his training properly. When presented with the challenge, he goes into solving it with little belief that he will succeed, and because of this, he fails. Yoda teaches him that while having physical strength is helpful, it's not the whole story, as size does not determine strength. Yoda is a shining example of this, as his power comes from his ability to believe in the Force and therefore himself, tackling every problem in the same way. Yoda goes on to educate Luke on the Force and its importance of him spiritually, as it's the foundation of a Jedi physically, but more so on an emotional and mental level. Luke can't seem to find hope in this dark hour and simply gives up. It's when he's at his lowest point that he's then shown something amazing, and in Yoda's act, he then is reminded of the power of hope and how he will need it to overcome fear, whether that be fear of failure, his fate, or the dark side itself. This scene is quite a bit longer than the one we looked at last, but there isn't a single moment that's wasted, and really, it begins where the binary sunset left off, on the idea of hope. Luke is hopeful. He believes that he can make a change, that he can confront Vader, that he can help the rebellion and his friends, and that he can become a Jedi like his father. However, he also believes that his physical strength, or his power in the Force, will be the solution to all of the above. This is a tale as old as time, as a young-minded person places their value in the physical. Only with experience, age, and wisdom does it become clear that there are other strengths that are equally, if not more important. And when presented with the challenge of lifting the X-Wing, he fails because he didn't truly believe in himself. When his journey started, life was simple. The idea of being a hero and telling the difference between good versus evil was equal to distinguishing what was black and white. Now that he's crossed the threshold, away from the safety of his home and the ordinary world, he's now seen firsthand the reality of the extraordinary world and the struggles that come from navigating it and trying to remain true to his idealistic values and the standards of being a good person that he holds himself to. With the weight of not only the galaxy on his shoulders, but his own expectations of what he should be capable of, he crumbles. Not because he couldn't lift the X-Wing, but because of how he handles that failure. Yoda then steps in as the mentor who has seen more than most, so his perspective is from one that has been in Luke's very position. Yoda hands out gems and advice, the idea that we should not be judged by the physical, the power of seeing yourself as a luminous being and not simply crude matter, and truly believing in yourself, commonly referred to as do or do not, there is no try. But even with all of Yoda's 900 years of wisdom being bestowed upon Luke, he still chooses to give in, and we see our hero reach his lowest point. It's an intense moment as the character who has been the very symbol of hope has allowed fear to take over. It's humbling, as in life, everyone goes through their own trials when they are tested, and sometimes you reach rock bottom. Luke putting his head down and walking back and dreading the challenge is a stark contrast from the boy we saw on Tatooine, that held his head high and looked forward yearning for the next great adventure. All of this struggle is highlighted by Dagobah itself as a setting. As a swamp, it's an environment where movement is difficult and our vision is clouded, similar to the relative stagnation in Luke's progress in his training. He clearly can't be convinced otherwise through words, so Yoda decides to show him exactly what he, and in turn anyone else, can be capable of. Seeing the X-Wing rise from the swamp and soar across is one of the most powerful moments in Star Wars, as Luke turns again into the young boy that dreamed of adventure, as he has just witnessed the impossible. The moment of defeat that Luke has shows the reality of dealing with failure, how it can be easy to give up and accept things for as they are, but Yoda shows him that bouncing back from that failure is where the true success lies. Failure is inevitable, but you only truly fail when you quit. In other words, when you stop believing. This is where Luke ascends from being a hero into something more, into becoming a true Jedi Knight in every sense of the word. Luke is challenged throughout his confrontation with the struggle that is the pull to the dark side. As the fight nears its end, he reaches a breaking point where Vader tests him by making him imagine his worst fears, going after Luke's friends and corrupting them. Luke lashes back and unleashes all of the anger that he's been holding back not only in this fight or movie, but throughout the trilogy. As Luke's rage takes over, he wins the fight physically, but realizes the emotional and mental damage that was at work. It's in the imagery of the mechanical hand that then Luke truly sees himself come face to face with the mirror and reflection that is Darth Vader becoming his destiny or fate, similar to what he saw in the cave in episode 5. It's here that the questions of if he would submit to fear or hope that were presented on the swamp in Dagobah are brought to the forefront in this moment. From this, Luke makes the hard choice and chooses to stop the fighting, to take the high road and choose peace, throwing away his weapon and no longer playing into the Emperor's sick game. He chooses to look evil in the face and stand his ground on his own ideals, forgiving his father even after their confrontation, never losing himself in the process and becoming a symbol of hope for others. This scene beautifully bookends Luke's journey in this 3-part arc. He finally becomes the very thing he envisioned years ago on Tatooine, a hero. Understanding that while he may have went into it with the idea of gaining power and defeating the evil villains, in the end, when the opportunity is presented to him to strike down Vader, he makes the choice to be better and allows him a second chance at redemption, understanding that heroism goes deeper than simply besting your enemies in combat, but to make a sincere attempt to help others, to give a lending hand so they don't have to suffer through their conflict alone. And while we may never be in the same grand spectacle of a scenario that Luke is in, with the fate of the galaxy on the line, we can still learn from it, as his noble choice here is what I believe can inspire others to do the same in their own life when the moment presents itself, to truly show compassion. These 3 scenes act as the windows into what the audience wants to become, as they see themselves in this hero of 1,000 faces. Depending on whatever stage they are in life, they may be more influenced or moved by one scene more than the other. Binary Sunset acts as the early stages of life, where a young person yearns to adventure and take the opportunities that life may throw at them, searching for a greater purpose and being tired of whatever circumstances that they're in, and how it may be holding them back. The X-Wing acts as the middle, where the struggles of life are the toughest, where one may reach a point where they want to give in, as life will continuously throw curves and challenge us in different ways. But holding on to hope is the best means of persevering, taking advice from those with more experience and wisdom and becoming stronger for it. The Jedi scene is towards the end, where one has been through the trenches of life but have learned from all those valuable lessons and can now apply that strength going forward, being a beacon of hope for others. The Binary Sunset scene has no dialogue whatsoever. However, the message is clear to the audience. The X-Wing scene is quite long, as on its own, it could be a short film with its own beginning, middle, and end, with a premise, an obstacle, a lesson to be learned, a debate between characters, and having faith lost and restored by the end. In the scene of becoming a Jedi, it's a battle between father and son that tells a story on its own of how darkness can consume someone. However, it ends on a statement that defines the character, with the one response that's made by the Emperor reinforcing that defining moment where both the hero and villain accept what has transpired. Together, the 3 scenes serve as the defining moments for not just their respective movies, but for the trilogy and the series as a whole. They are what I would call the beginning of the beginning, the middle of the middle, and the end of the end, as each scene takes place in the same spot in the respective movies as it does in the trilogy. All 3 together can tell the story of Luke Skywalker as a hero, as you get the protagonist that is on the precipice of taking his first steps of his journey, being faced with a choice that will change his life forever. We're also given what his motivations are, and the major obstacle that stands in his way. Then we have the struggles that he runs into as his journey is in full effect, the difficulty of being a hero and what it means to rise up to that challenge and believe in every action that you commit. Lastly, we reach the completion of that arc where our protagonist has fully realized what it takes to be that kind of person that he set off to be in the first place, as he embodies exactly what a hero should be. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I had a ton of fun making this video. It was really different from what I normally write, so it felt great to be able to explore some of my favorite scenes in Star Wars in a unique and creative way. So if you'd like that, then definitely let me know in the comments what other scenes you want me to go over, even if it's just for what they mean to me personally. And as always, if you enjoyed it, then I highly suggest liking the video, and if you want to see more like it, definitely hit subscribe. I'm trying to see if we can get to 10,000. And if you want to be notified when the next video comes out, hit the bell for notifications. Or consider checking out my Patreon, where I'll be uploading videos there significantly sooner than on YouTube. So next video should be available there as I speak, and the same will apply to the next ones when they come out. And on that note, I want to give a shout out to my patrons. Your support means everything to me. Until next time, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.